Hello everyone. Let's look at the Model Context Protocol. So it allows LLMs to access stuff which they might not otherwise be able to. It's a protocol, so it's compatible with more than just Claude. So if you're aware, Anthropic devised this late in 2024 and they sort of promoted it. It was a bit of a hype train for maybe a week or two, but it's actually a very valid protocol. And with a protocol, as I say, it's usable by OpenAI, Llama, and so on. So you've got prompts, resources, and tools. These are the three main things that you'll encounter when you're working with MCP, whether it's a server or a client. The servers are very interesting, and that's what we're going to focus on. But the client could be Claude Desktop, which is typically what you'll come across. But you can write your own client, and obviously there's ones written in Python, TypeScript, Rust, and so on. So um, I'm also going to show you the MCP Inspector. Now, I think going forward, this is going to be a really useful tool, and it took me longer than I'd care to admit to actually get this working. So if you've got a tool that you write, or a server even, I keep using the word tool, but a server is more than just a tool. As you saw, it's got prompts and resources. So prompt is obviously telling the LLM a bit of background context. The resource could be a file or something like that on the actual server that you're creating. And then the tool is effectively like a function. So you take an input and you get an output. That's how I understand it. Maybe wrong, but yeah, that's it. And then we'll be looking, once we've looked at the MCP inspector, which is simple to use with UV for Python or Node for TypeScript, JavaScript. I'm investigating how I can use it with servers written in other languages, but I'm running into issues with error messages relating to EMV. So work in progress. As you can see, we've got the standard std IO transport type. You've also got SSE, which is server sent events. The SDK we're going to be focusing on is the MCP 1.3.0. You can do pip install MCP, and that's for Python, as this channel mainly looks at Python stuff. So with that being said, let's look at actually setting up an MCP server. I've already done pip install. I'm sure you can all do that. You can also do UV add if you're using the UV package manager, which is probably a good thing to be doing here because it allows you to then use UV with the inspector, and the inspector is something which I think you'll want to be using because it just simplifies testing of. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so this is the GitHub site for the Python SDK, the official Python SDK for model context. I'm guessing this was built by Anthropic. You got the overview, blah, 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 all that jazz. You've got the instructions here. So we recommend using UV to manage your Python projects. So I actually did that. And yeah, let's go across the terminal. This is actually running, so I need to just stop that. But what I did was I did UV, whatever it was. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger. Clear. So I actually ran UV add MCP CLI. Not much happened there because I already had it installed. But then I did UV init, and then my MC was just name of my project. So if I go back up, so UV, if you're not familiar, it creates you a log file, PyProject TOML, and a README. And then it does the SRC, and then inside SRC, you actually get the same name again. So then you get MC, and then you have to go into that, which I find a little bit annoying, but it allows you to add other projects inside your main project. So server.py, and this is taken from the example on the pip page for MCP. I'll just make that. So if you go to pip install the pip page for Model Context Protocol SDK for Python, you get some examples. Now, one of the examples uses weather, fetch the current weather. And it uses an API which in the UK I was having issues with. So instead, I've replaced it with this. So um, this works, by the way. So starting from the top, from MCP server, because we've done the UCP, the UV MCP thing, it's given us the ability to use the MCP SDK, import fast MCP. We also use an HTTPX. So for any server that you write, you'll always do that. But for this particular server, I'm using HTTPX here because we're working with an API. And that's actually wrong. That's from another. That's just a name that you'll see. So let's just call it weather and BMI. The BMI calculator is basically just taking weight and height and doing some math. So we've got the MCP tool. So you can have a tool, a prompt, or resource. Here we're focusing on tools. So if it wasn't tool, it would that word there would be prompt, or it would be resource. In a minute, you'll see where when I show you in a minute. Let me just come out of that. So here we've got the project. So if I just go up a couple of levels, I'll just do the tree. So tree dash hyphen L, let's do 2, let's do 3. Now you can see that's the overall project structure, and that's the server, which is the file we were just looking at. Right, so when you want to test it, it's MCP dev, and then you need to tell it the path to the server. You get these little dots going around in circles, starting MCP inspector, new SSE connection. Don't worry about all that. That's kind of background info. This is what you want. You want this here, the little rocket by the side, and you get this screen. Sorry if that's a bit bright. You can change it to dark as well. But just for this, I think I'll keep it light. So click connect. And if all goes well, you get connected here. Let me just make this a bit bigger, zoom in. So transport type, you've got server sent events or std.io. We'll stick with std.io just to begin with. Command UV, so basically it's saying use UV to run this code. I mean, obviously it's replacing Python because UV is equivalent to typing Python or achieves the same results. So then run with MCP, blah, blah, blah. So that's all filled in for you because you're using UV. Right, resources, prompts, tools. As we saw from the screenshots at the start, these are the 3 things that you get or that you provide with a MCP server. You provide these 3 things to the large language model. So if we go to tools, because if you remember we used the at decorator, this tools, those are our 2 functions. That's because we used at, was it at MCP tools? I think it was, wasn't it? Calculate BMI. So weight, I think I'm about 82 kilograms, 1.77. Tool success. Oh dear, I'm over 24. You should be 25 BMI or under. Never mind. I wouldn't live your life by the body mass index, to be honest. It kind of discounts muscle and so on. Right, this is a more interesting one. So this is the fetch weather. So if you've got an LLM that doesn't have access to the internet, you can add this. Let's go for London, shall we? I think it's about longitude. Let's say 1 degree. If we run this tool, success, latitude, longitude, generation time, UTF offsets, time zone, blah, 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 elevation, current weather, seconds. Response is here. And this is what the LLM will be. Remember, this is just an inspector. This is testing what the LLM will actually receive. So the LLM will actually get back. Some here we got the temperature down here somewhere. Current weather interval temperature 12 degrees. We're in the UK today in March 2025, and it's about 12 degrees. So that's about right. You got all this other weather data as well. So that's using tools. For prompts, you just change the code slightly with, if we stop that, MC server. So yeah, instead of if we did just change that, let's just change that to prompt. I know it's this is highly irregular, but just to see if just to demonstrate a point. The prompt won't work because it's actually built as a function, but I'll just to demonstrate how they'll show up. So now, if we go list prompts, you see calculate BMI has gone from being a tool. So before we had two tools, but now we've got one tool, one prompt. And that's all because we changed the code. We changed the prompt here. So that's a brief intro. Now the inspector is actually running. Let me just the MCP inspector. If you go to inspector, I think it might come out. Put a link here. No, okay. User guide, MCP inspector on GitHub anyway. So protocol, if you want to read more about the protocol, there's documentation on here. So the prompts, resources, and tools are the three things which we're testing here. Look, prompts, resources, and tools. So that's an intro to using MCP. I've talked about the protocol or the features of it really, which is just the fact that you get these prompts, resources, and tools which you otherwise wouldn't have available to an LLM. You've got the ability to go off out to the internet. You can fetch stuff. So if we go to this is a quick start. You see you've got tool, you can do resource, add a dynamic greeting resource, and then you can access files and file system and so on. The fast MCP server, so this is with respect to Python. The fast MCP server is your core interface to the MCP protocol. It handles connection management, protocol compliance, and message routing. So you can do a lot more stuff here, and you can see it's introducing pandas and NumPy as well. Prompts, images, you can work with images. You can do everything that you would want to do with an LLM, but obviously an LLM doesn't have access to local resources typically. SQLite. So if you go to, one thing I've been looking at is how to actually use your LLM to execute, to write and test code locally. And this is one that I'm looking at the moment, which is Riza code. So the LLM will then be able to use, this is a ready-made server actually. So if you go to the MCP page, you can find this. I think this is already built as a Docker container as well. So typically these will be Dockerized, and then you'll just need to, if you're using Claude, then you have a config.json file. So we're talking about two things here really. We're talking about building our own servers, which is what we would do here and what I've showed you in the terminal. So for instance, I tweaked the one that they provided and I tweaked it to use a different API. So if you didn't want to do weather, if you wanted to get, say, flight information, you would just change this to a flight API. and then you could provide the flight information to the LLM. So we've talked about writing our own server, and then now we're talking about actually bringing your own or introducing a server from, let's go back, and there we go. Here we're on the Riza MCP. So Riza offers a selected code interpreter for your LLM generated code, which is very nice. You have to get an API key. And I found that via the GitHub page, which was Model Context Protocol servers. And they've got this list of servers. I mean, I would recommend starting with maybe SQLite or PostgreSQL. And Fetch is another good one. You can just go off to Wikipedia. I found the Riza one down here somewhere. Yeah, down there. Grafana would be quite a good one if you're within a business environment. Firecrawl is amazing for web scraping. So yeah, I'll leave that there. But that's an overview of Model Context Protocol. Writing your own servers using Python. You can also use TypeScript. There's a Python and a TypeScript SDK, which makes life a lot easier. And then obviously you could roll your own from scratch with other languages. But for now, I'm going to stick with these two. But the inspector, really useful. And I think the more you use the inspector, the more you become familiar with the features, and then that will stick in your mind if you attempt to write anything yourself, code your own server. Maybe in a future video, we'll look at clients as well, because Claude Desktop is obviously the main client, but you could also build your own client. And just a quick search on GitHub and you'll find clients. Because in the moment, as far as I'm aware, there's a client for, I believe there's one for Windows. There's definitely one for Mac OS X, but I don't believe there's one for Linux. So you might want to, go on GitHub and find your own client, either that or write your own. So thanks for watching. Thumbs up, all the usual stuff. Subscribe, comments, plenty of comments, please, because it's good for the algos and all that. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be back very soon.